Apart from your assertion about it being a dubious ally, Israel has barely received any mention in your course. That seems odd. Any explanation?
Well, our subject is America's war for the greater Middle East. Israel has had its own wars, more than a few in fact, but those wars are not America's wars. Except in the most general sense, Israel's purposes are not America's purposes. Of course, American politicians eager to curry favor with some bloc of voters may suggest otherwise, but they are incorrect.
What bloc of voters?
Supporters of Israel. Many American Jews, of course, but far larger numbers of non-Jews, especially conservative Protestant evangelicals.
Is that the so-called Israel lobby?
Think of the Israel lobby as the organizations through which supporters of Israel make their case in Washington, promoting the flawed idea that U.S. and Israeli interests align. They urge unquestioning support for the Jewish state. There are many such organizations, but the one you've probably heard about is the America-Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC.
Some claim AIPAC basically dictates U.S. policy toward the Middle East.
No, it does not. It does, however, exercise very considerable influence, much as, say, the National Rifle Association exercises very considerable influence on anything related to guns. Whatever you may think of a particular lobby's position on the issues, in Washington, they are as American as apple pie.
Is the Israel lobby's influence positive or negative?
At this juncture, mostly negative, in my view.
And how so?
Well, the lobby takes a sort of loyalty oath approach to U.S.-Israeli relations. You're either for us or against us, that sort of thing. The lobby inhibits honest discussion of real differences, which is not helpful either to Israel or to the United States.
Perhaps for the sake of balance, there should be an American lobby in Israel. Nudge Israelis to be mindful of U.S. concerns. Tilt things our way a bit.
Wouldn't do any good. Israeli political leaders will never confuse U.S. interests with Israeli interests. They rigorously distinguish between the two, and they are clear on which comes first. It's in their political DNA. Somehow or other, American political leaders have lost that capacity. Or, with their professions of fealty to Israel, they give a pretty good impression of having done so.
And where do you stand?
I think way back in 1796, George Washington got it right in his farewell address. When it comes to foreign policy, he wrote, "Nothing is more essential than that permanent inveterate antipathies against particular nations and passionate attachments for others should be excluded." Washington went on to say, "The nation which indulges towards another a habitual hatred or a habitual fondness is in some degree a slave." A passionate attachment to Israel, or to any other country for that matter, inhibits our ability to view that country's actions objectively. A passionate attachment makes you vulnerable to deception or manipulation.
But some Americans, mostly on the left, make it sound like Israel is the root of all our troubles in the Islamic world.
That considerably overstates the case. Through its existence and its actions, Israel may have contributed to the problems that the United States faces in the greater Middle East, but it did not cause those problems. Heck, if we were going to single out any country as particularly responsible for creating the dysfunction engulfing much of the Islamic world, that country would surely be Great Britain. Furthermore, even if enlightened Israeli policies, say with regard to the Palestinians, could arguably alleviate U.S. problems in the greater Middle East, it would not eliminate them. Egypt would still be Egypt, Somalia, Somalia, and Pakistan, Pakistan. Saudi Arabia and Iran would still view one another as arch rivals. The antagonisms pitting Sunnis against Shiites would still exist. So too would the corruption, ineptitude, and economic stagnation plaguing much of the region.
So what are you saying?
Simply that it makes no sense to obsess about Israel. We shouldn't do it. We certainly shouldn't make Israel a scapegoat. But neither should Washington defer to Israeli concerns and preferences when it comes to deciding U.S. policy. Israelis can absolutely count on their government to do what best promotes the well-being of the State of Israel. Americans should insist that the U.S. government do what best promotes the well-being of the United States. In that regard, with its strong military and nuclear arsenal, Israel possesses the wherewithal to pretty much take care of itself. Indeed, a central tenet of Zionism is that it must do just that. The contrast between Israel and the United States on that point is striking. They fight their own wars, whereas Americans offload the responsibility for fighting onto whoever can be enticed into shouldering the burden.
You're suggesting that that's irresponsible.
I am.
How do Americans get away with it?
Well, there's a great passage near the end of The Great Gatsby, where Nick Carraway is reflecting on how two of the novel's main characters, Tom and Daisy Buchanan, disrupt and destroy the lives of others, but somehow never end up being held accountable. They simply move on and conveniently forget the wreckage left in their wake. They were careless people, Scott Fitzgerald writes. They smashed up things and creatures and then retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness or whatever it was that kept them together, and let other people clean up the mess they had made. As they have blundered about the greater Middle East, smashing things, Americans have been careless people, quick to forget the recurrent messes to which we have contributed. Whether anyone will have the ability or the inclination to clean up after us may be another matter.